Is it happening?
Hello everyone.
Hi! Welcome to our second ever live stream. I hope everything is working. I hope you can hear us. I hope the sound is fine.
Yes, please tell us if the sound is good. Hi, Servus Epic Daniel.
Servus!
Hello Miko. Hello
Nice.
Johnny. Jake. Wow. Thanks for confirming the sound.
Thank you so much, guys, for attending today again. We're so happy and honored. It was so much fun last time. And we thought, why not do it again, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, what are we doing today? You're the mastermind. You
Hello. Wow, we have people from Spain, Bulgaria.
From all around the world. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks a lot for joining.
Thank you so much.
From Argentina, from everywhere. Arizona even. Awesome.
So last time we did like Ask Us Anything live stream, and today we have prepared a little bit. We have like
We have
a few topics, but
Yeah.
you can always ask questions, of course, and we'll try to answer as many as possible.
Absolutely.
So first we have several announcements to make, and the first one Sebastian will be going to show you, right?
Yes, of course. So we have a desktop now. You can see our desktop. How awesome is that? And here is our cool homepage, which we want to show you. jstothefuture.com.
Yes, so this is still a very simple homepage, and like we are showing this for the first time to our audience, so you are the first to see this. And as you can see, it still doesn't have so many features, so if you have any feedback or suggestions and ideas, feel free to tell us. So either here in the comments, or later you can always send us messages, also on Facebook or Twitter, or just comment on YouTube, however you like.
Exactly.
And we, of course, will put a link to the homepage in the video description of this live stream, so you can easily find it.
Exactly. And so basically you will see all our videos. You can read about us, and our social media links are also embedded.
Yeah.
And in the future, we are thinking about doing some kind of blog, right? Some small blog articles about disruptive technologies of all sorts, about spaceflight, about the topics we're always talking about. So that is like kind of future stuff which we're going to implement at some point, right?
Yeah, something like that. We are okay. I saw somebody said dark mode.
Dark background. Okay.
Dark is
Noted.
always nice.
Noted. And yeah, that is our homepage. And who did our homepage? We want to give a shout out, of course, to the awesome person who helped us with the homepage. Actually helped us is quite a funny sentence because he did everything. So thank you so much, Michael Rood. It's like he's Michael Rood from South Africa. South Africa again, like the home country from Elon. Like seems a lot of awesome people come from South Africa, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, he's an awesome guy. He did everything basically, and he is like he has his.
This is the homepage of his business, so he is providing simple homepage designs. Yeah, for like small business also, for small businesses, and he did it absolutely for free for us, and we want to say thank you very much. And
thank you so much, Michael. Yeah,
and if any of you ever wants to have your own homepage, or you know somebody who needs a homepage, feel free to check Michael out.
Yeah, contact him and he will be happy to help you. He's super professional and really efficient. It's unbelievable how fast he did the homepage.
Yes, and now, so the next thing we can go to the next announcement, I would say.
Exactly.
The next shout out.
The next shout out is SpaceX Vision. So probably you have seen a lot of his animations in our videos. He's doing awesome Starship animations, really among the best on whole YouTube, I would say. And we wanted to give him a shout out because he only has 2.52k subscribers, which we think is far too little. He deserves at least 10 times more. And he's really doing awesome animations, which we use very often. And we wanted to thank you so much, SpaceX Vision, for all these awesome animations you're doing. It's amazing. It's amazing what he's doing here. And he also has a Patreon. Yes, exactly, right?
Yeah.
So you can join his Patreon, and it would be awesome if you would support him, because I think he deserves it.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, we don't have Patreon yet. And if you want to support our channel and support people who do basically help us with the videos, you can also consider supporting him.
Yes, by supporting him, you're also supporting us,
of
basically.
Course.
So
we use lots of his animations in our videos, you might have noticed.
Absolutely, absolutely. So then the next is, I would say, the next ones, which we certainly want to give a shout out to, is Total Space, the Total Space podcast. We were very honored to have been invited to their podcast. Really awesome, an awesome team behind it. And we had a lot of fun discussing the technologies which we would need for future habitation of Mars. It was very nice, right?
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
And this is like a relative new space podcast, and there are not so much quality space content, I would say, in the podcast area. And there are only have 17 episodes until now, but they just keep improving, and every episode is so informative and also, yeah, just very good quality space content, right?
Absolutely, they have awesome guests. They had Felix from What About It. They
Angry
Angry Astronaut. We were also very honored to join this illustrious club.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, we put all the links to these pages or in the description of our video, so you can find them all there.
Exactly.
And talking of Angry Astronaut, and if you don't know him yet, he's also a very nice space YouTuber, right?
Yeah, he's our friend. We have been working with him basically since a long time ago.
Yeah.
We did some videos together also, and we are in touch with him since over 1 year now, I would say.
Yeah. And today, actually, he also always does an live stream on Sunday during this time, but today he knew that we are doing a live stream, so he rescheduled his stream, so his stream was before ours, and we are very thankful for that.
Yes, thank you so much, Angry Astronaut, for shifting your time slot, because for us it was very difficult to find a time slot with our schedule, and Sunday also, unfortunately, this time also was the best for us. So thank you so much, Angry Astronaut, for shifting your time slot.
Yeah.
And probably there are some people now watching his stream and then watching afterwards this stream, which is quite nicely timed now.
And we also want to say he told us he will be uploading a video later today, so be sure to check out after you watch this stream.
We certainly will.
We are looking forward to his new upload.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So now we have some super chat, and maybe you can have a
Wow. Awesome. A super chat. Will they advance? Hi, Space Lord Doomlord. That is a freaking awesome name. Space Lord Doomlord. Will they advance Starship even further once it's finished? What do you think? I think yes. I mean, the Starship iteration we're seeing now is V1, basically. That is the first Starship. But Elon already teased the possibility of a larger Starship, Starship V2.0, basically, with a diameter of 18 meters. So it would have twice the diameter of the current generation Starship. And that would be quite a beast. I mean, a diameter of 18 meters. You have a lot more interior volume, basically. suddenly, all of a sudden, like you can carry insane payloads into space. The question, of course, arises now: if the next generation Starship, will it be built in orbit directly and be an orbital, like never really take off from Earth and land on Earth again? So what kind of ship will it be? We think it would make more sense that the next generation Starship would be built in orbit with some next generation or new propulsion, nuclear thermal or Hall effect thrusters or magnetoplasma rockets of some sort. But yeah, it will certainly be there will certainly be next generation Starships once this is finished. That I'm pretty sure of it. You?
Yeah. And we have Don Mike Alfred. I'm sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. Thanks a lot for the super sticker.
Thanks, Don Mike Alfred. Thank you so much.
And Gary Tipis. Thank you so much for your super chat and
wow.
Yeah.
Thanks Gary
Tipis. To you.
Thank you so much for the generous donation.
Yeah.
And greetings to Boston. Boston is an amazing city.
Yeah, and yeah, we are happy that we can do the streaming now on Sunday, right? It's one nice free time activity for Sunday.
Everyone mostly has time on Sunday, and especially here in Germany, everything is closed all the time on Sunday. So for us, it's quite good.
We are glad that we can entertain you on a Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. So then what else? We have some other stuff, right? We have some other. So we wanted to talk about the disruption report, I say, or?
If you want.
Or what is next on our agenda?
Yeah, we can talk about the disruption report a bit. So you might have noticed that lately we didn't give like Tesla updates so often anymore. It was our regular disruption report. You can show our channel, right? We didn't give the regular Tesla updates every Wednesday for several reasons. First, because unfortunately the disruption reports, they didn't have so many views compared to our space reports.
Yeah, this is the nasty YouTube algorithm about which we rant sometimes. Because if it's not space, then YouTube thinks, oh, what's that? It's not space, ciao. It doesn't promote it. So like our disruption reports didn't get any attention or any traction whatsoever.
We put the same amount of effort into those videos as into our space reports, and it was a bit sad for us that not so many people watch it, but that's not the only reason. Another reason is now like Tesla is really doing great. So is there now so much exciting news every week? Of course, if there's some big news, like it was the battery day or the launch of the full self-driving, or if something similar to that happens in the future, if they launch, I don't know, the robotaxi network finally, or big announcement, of course we'll talk about them again, but probably not every week. And the other thing is also, we had the feeling that our news or our electric car news wasn't so timely because we didn't have so much time. It took us tons of time to edit, and until we uploaded it, the news
was always a bit late. It was always 2 or 3 days later than, for example, Zach and Jesse from Now You Know, and a channel which we also like very much. A very awesome channel.
Yeah, if you didn't know, you can check them out.
They are basically doing exactly the same thing, topic-wise, about electric cars and Tesla, but they do it like 10 times more detailed, and they have a format where they talk about it for 1 hour. I think their video format is like 1 hour long, so it's super detailed, much more detailed than ours.
If it's too long, you can scroll through them, but they're really funny. It's worth watching their videos.
Absolutely.
And as for Giga Texas updates, you can check out our good friend Joel Techmeyer. He really does excellent drone videos of Giga Texas. So if you want to follow the progress there, you should check out his channel. So the link is also in the description of this live stream. Yeah,
exactly. He's doing the best videos of Giga Texas.
But we are still doing our regular disruption report, but we are changing it up a bit for example, here's the new disruption report. We want to talk about like all different kind of disruptive technologies. So
yes, because in our regular disruption report, we never had the time to really dive deep into one topic. In 15 minutes, you can, if you have to talk about 5, 6, 7 different topics, we cannot go in depth into one topic. So we thought it would be maybe nice to pick out one disruptive technology and only talk about it for 10 to 15 minutes, and then next week another one. So we have more time to really go in depth into some disruptive technologies, which might be more interesting.
So lately we talked about the technologies we would need on Mars, and then about life extension technologies. This video here we are really proud of, because many people ask us, would we be able to live long enough actually to see Elon's famous Mars city? Some health benefits would be nice.
It would, normally it takes always longer than we expect, right? So, like many people say, like huge cities on Mars by 2030, bases on the moon by 2025 or whatever. And if it could be 2040, we don't know. We hope it will be 2030 until we have a first base on Mars. But what if it's 2040? What if the pace of progress is slower? Then it might be a good idea to live long enough to actually be able to witness all these amazing advancements of humanity.
Yeah, and next week we'll probably talk about Neuralink, or features of. We know that Neuralink will be good for brain damages or health reasons, but we will also talk about Neuralink's applications in spaceflight.
Yes.
So enough now of self-promotion, and we are still experimenting with the disruption reports, and if you have any suggestions, you can always tell us in the comments. We read all the comments, as you know.
Absolutely.
So we can change back to our talk.
Of course.
And we have some new super chats. Thank you so much, Johnny Spacer. So the question from Johnny is, I think the moon would be a great spaceship building yard, abundant building materials and low gravity. So we agree with you like 100%. You are absolutely right, Johnny.
Yes.
And thanks a lot for your generous donation.
Thank you so much. Yes, we are always like, it's always asked, it's also good for the topic now, which we had, like moon or Mars. It's always the old debate. And it's like, some people always want to go to the moon, some to Mars. We always like to say both would be nice, both at the same time would be awesome. But yes, the moon is awesome. It has a low gravity, it has lots of resources, and it's only 2 days away. I mean, that's amazing. It's 2 days away, which makes it basically perfect as a testing ground to test out all the necessary technologies for later, which we will need on Mars. And orbital shipyards in moon orbit are perfect, because basically you can, the best idea would be to harness the lot of ores and minerals on the moon, then with in situ resource utilization build the things like the structures you need on the moon directly from moon resources. And then, for example, you could build a rail gun like a mass driver and shoot the stuff into orbit, because the moon's gravity is so low and it basically has almost no atmosphere, so it's like a perfect vacuum almost. And then you shoot it into moon orbit and you can build your stuff in moon orbit.
Yes,
how freaking amazing.
And you can also extract like methane, oxygen, hydrogen from lunar regolith.
Yeah.
And then you can basically also produce propellant for Starship on the moon, and then you can put those into some like propellant capsules and also shoot them into orbit with the mass driver. Exactly.
So harnessing the moon's resources, mass driver, and then you have orbital shipyards, and the moon has such a low gravity, you can reach destinations in the solar system easier. The escape velocity is lower than if you would launch directly from Earth orbit. So,
sorry to interrupt you, but
no
we have
problem.
Tyler.
No problem.
Tyler, who also said it's sad because he has been watching us since when we had only 2,000 subscribers. Thank you so much, Tyler.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Tyler, so much.
We are really sorry that we are now like experimenting a bit with our disruption reports, but we will certainly keep it. And
don't worry, we will certainly always keep talking about disruptive technology, but we're experimenting around still a bit. So it might happen that in a few months we'd say, okay, that format didn't turn out to be so good. We will go back to the old one, you know. So it's nothing is fixed yet. So we're kind of like sometimes experimenting around. So don't worry that we suddenly won't talk about disruptive technologies anymore. That will never happen, because that really interests us a lot. And we also want to talk about things that interest us and not that interest only the whole YouTube algorithm, you know? So don't worry, we will certainly keep talking about disruptive technologies. Any other cool questions?
Here. Me Too asked.
Me Too. That's a funny name. Hi, Me Too. Would it not be easier to build rotating space colonies than live on a low gravity planet like Mars? Ah, yeah, we hear that very often, right? The famous O'Neill cylinders, right? Everyone's talking about O'Neill cylinders, and Jeff Bezos always says like, yeah, let's build O'Neill cylinders. That's my personal view now, but what I always think is like, this is a bit of an oversimplification. I think people don't realize how insanely, brutally difficult it would be to build O'Neill cylinders. So what do you think is easier? Flying to the moon and Mars and building habitats on the surface, like, I don't know, expandable habitats, Bigelow habitats. We have Starship, we can bring habitats there, we can inflate them. So we basically have finished bases. We build a regolith dome, then we are protected from radiation. Okay, that already is doable. We have all the technology, we have everything there. We only need Starship to get us there. But building O'Neill cylinders, like these are huge structures. These are like, if you know Babylon 5, we are huge Babylon 5 fans. The space station Babylon 5 is basically an O'Neill cylinder. It's like 8 kilometers long and has a diameter of, I don't know, 1 kilometer or something. And it keeps rotating, and by means of like, it's basically the rotating cylinder, and by means of rotation it creates like artificial gravity. But building an O'Neill cylinder of like a scale I would say a few kilometers long and a diameter of a few hundred meters, that would require insane material. I mean, an insane amount of material, and I'm not sure if we would have the technology right now to build this. I think we would need like intelligent replicating nanobots of some sort, or some quite advanced self-replicating technology that would help us build such huge structures. And so for me, when people say, let's build O'Neill cylinders, yes, we will, and certainly they would make very good generational starships, for example, to near star systems, like where we could live for a few hundred years when we travel to other star systems. But I think right now they are just too insanely difficult to build. They are like insane.
Or something like in Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, exactly. Like they will make very nice space stations in the future. I'm very sure of it. But right now, I think just the approach to just fly to another moon or planet and land there, and then basically you build your habitats on the surface, that appears much easier to me than building gigantic megastructures, rotating megastructures in space. That's just my opinion, and probably yours also. And
yes, and I want to say thank you to Toby. Thanks a lot for your thumbs up sticker. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Toby.
Yeah, and we have another. Nice question from
Hugo Coppens. Hi, Hugo Coppens.
I'm sorry we're a bit late with the questions, because there are just so many, but we will try to
questions. Yeah.
We'll try our best. So maybe your question, you type in a question. Maybe the question will be answered like in 5 to 10 minutes. It could also happen.
Your questions will be answered. We are just like there might be some delay.
Yeah.
So, is there a redundancy plan if the elevator of Starship doesn't work? Says Hugo Coppens. So, you're probably in the elevator when they land on the moon or on the surface of Mars or whatever, and then we saw these pictures how the astronauts would like have to use an elevator. They step out quite a few meters above the surface, 20, 30 meters above the surface, quite high. And then they use an elevator to go down. And now imagine you are on the moon, you've landed on the moon and the elevator doesn't work. And then,
it would be a bit funny.
How do we get back up? And that's a good question. I really hope they have quite a lot of redundancy systems built in, like many. And even if like the elevator totally breaks down, they should have like some kind of expandable, retractable ladder of some sort as a total fail-safe system if all other systems also fail. I really hope they do have. And I think they also thought about it, yeah.
Yeah. And thanks a lot for the super chat, W4IT.
W4IT, thank you so much.
So he's asking if Sebastian should play the guitar because Sebastian is the one who plays the guitar.
I hope you would forget, honestly. I hope you would forget it.
You can play.
Later or what?
Should he play now or later? You can tell us.
Yeah, you can tell us what you think. Should I play or not? And if yes, now or later.
But maybe we can, in the meanwhile, we can try to answer some other question. Here, the classical...
Now, later, now, lol, later, now, now, I think it's a bit more now, but please don't expect anything amazing. I'm just like, I didn't play guitar for quite some time.
Take off your mic first. Huh?
Probably have to take off the mic first. Why didn't you forget about it? I really hoped you would forget about it. Now I have to...
So now Sebastian will pick up his guitar and let's see if we have some... Meanwhile, I will try to entertain you.
Plug in the amplifier. Good old amplifier. Why didn't they forget? Why didn't you guys forget? I didn't have a lot of time to practice, so please don't expect some amazing stuff now. Okay? Didn't have time to practice or stuff. I'm just like sometimes. How often do I play?
YouTube is taking up all his free time.
Since we started YouTube, I don't have so much time to play anymore. Strange, right?
Applause now!
I don't know.
Do you like it so much?
I don't know. So yeah, that's enough for today. I would say. I would say that's enough for today. Maybe next time a bit more. But as you can see, I'm a bit rusty.
If we have 100,000 subscribers at some point, you will come back, right? You'll make a comeback.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I need to practice more. But for that, we need some people helping us with YouTube because this stuff takes up a lot of time.
And we have another question from Bobby Shaft Toy. Thanks a lot for your super chat.
Thank you
He's
so much.
asking for our thoughts. regarding a burst disk event while Starship is sitting on Mare Firma.
Wow. You heard it here first, indeed.
Yes.
Bobby Shafto, thank you so much, first of all, for the donation. So, regarding a burst disk event while Starship is sitting on Mare Firma. The burst disk, we know about the burst disk event from SN8, which basically saved SN8. So it proved to be a quite good addition, because without the burst disk, the whole Starship would have gone boom again. So, but we haven't heard about Mare Firma yet, so we don't know what that is, but burst disks are certainly a good idea to add into future iterations of Starship prototypes, of course, yeah. Anything else?
Yes. Yeah, the NASA.
Sully Joe 1, wow, thank you so much for your generous donation. Thank you so much, Sulio. I'm sad about Jim not being NASA administrator, but I want the NASA admin to be a scientist. It's tradition. Yeah.
That's a good proposal. I mean, if you are a NASA administrator, you should at least know the science behind it, the physics, and everything.
But then again, Jim Bridenstine was not, as far as I know, more a politician than a scientist.
He was in the military, right?
Yeah, but he surprised us by being an awesome NASA administrator. So being a scientist probably is not a prerequisite, or it's not a guarantee that the NASA administrator will really be amazing. So I don't know. He or she should just be a very good administrator, no matter if scientist or more from the politics side. Let's just hope that it will be a very good NASA administrator.
And we have some question for you, because you're from Romania.
To Informaticos. Thank you so much for your donation to Informaticos. Salutari din Madrid. Thank you so much. Greetings back to Madrid. I would like to hear you talking about Romanian initiative Arca Space. Wow, okay. That's interesting. We haven't heard about Arca Space yet, but we will certainly take a look into it and we'll certainly cover it, because we also cover things that are not so well known, or smaller companies, so we certainly will be glad to also talk about it after we look into it, of course. Thank you so much. Anything else?
Maybe some other questions?
Space. So Johnny Spacer, thank you for your donation, Johnny Spacer. Space nerd needs to be a qualification for NASA administrator. Yes, I would totally agree. I think that is the most important qualification. It all comes down to, it doesn't matter if you're a politician or a scientist or what your background is. So of course you need to have a basic understanding of spaceflight and what actually is happening there, what kind of technologies are involved. But it all comes down to being a space nerd, being enthusiastic about spaceflight and about the future of humanity in space, and believing that it's a good thing and an awesome thing if we colonize or spread to other planets, other worlds, other moons. That this is fundamentally a good thing. And I really hope that the next administrator will think like this, yeah.
Yeah, and good to see you, another space nut, and thanks a lot for your question.
Hi, another space nut, nice to have you here.
Yes, he asked about the GTP-3 mission.
Did you guys see GTP-3, and do you think it's the AI we need for Mars information? No, we have to say we didn't see it. We didn't see it. And you think it's the AI we need? Yeah, we talked about AI on future Mars, for future Mars governments on the podcast, which was also quite a nice idea, that on a future Mars government we would have a direct democracy aided by some form of AI. And this is basically the idea he's talking about, but I don't know in what context this is to the mission, because we have to admit we haven't watched it. So, but we have to certainly dig into that. Sounds quite interesting.
Is it the OpenAI?
Ah, yeah, it has to do with the OpenAI API.
Yeah, that's in the news all the time.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll take a look into it.
Yeah.
We might even cover it on an episode, but we have too little information now about it from like...
Maybe we should come back to our, the topics in our headline of the video,
exactly,
right?
exactly. We had actually some topics. So we had Moon versus Mars, which won. But the other topics combined also had about 50%, which is does the Fermi Paradox really exist, was the other one. And do we need genetic engineering for our future in space? Which would be nice. And so basically we talked about the topic already, Moon versus Mars. You know, there's this old debate, Moon versus Mars, and we actually have made 2 videos on that topic, which I can show you right now. So I think it's
already. Yeah.
Where was it?
Here's our basically all the videos we did on Mars. So we talk about Mars versus Moon, the top 10 reasons why you should go for Mars first, why you should build a colony on Mars first, in this video here. And then we also talk about the possibilities of terraforming Mars. And then...
Yeah, also top 10 reasons to do Mars before Moon or
this
Moon before Mars.
is our Moon playlist where we talk about all the reasons, of course we talk about the lunar Starship and the top 10 reasons to colonize the Moon first, right?
Yeah.
But where is our preferred scenario, of course?
Yeah, our preferred scenario is, of course, doing both at the same time. So why would we have to decide if maybe we could do both at the same time?
Yeah.
Because Starship basically will allow us to do both at the same time, which is so nice about Starship, because it can land on so many in so many different places in the solar system. And basically, why should we then decide? Because I think that thanks to Elon Musk's insane drive and insane relentless energy.
Yes. I think he also posted something on Twitter, so confirmed basically the low price of Starship.
Yeah, exactly. It will be super cheap. It's I think, is it 1,000 times cheaper than one SLS? It will be.
It depends on how you calculate it.
It will be, let's say, around 1,000 times cheaper to launch than one single SLS. So that I think already says everything. So this price advantage and the full reusability will allow us to basically build Moon colonies and Mars colonies at the same time. So I think the question Moon versus Mars dates back from 20, 30 years ago where we really didn't have enough resources to do both at the same time. Then it made sense to decide. But I think now with Starship, we won't have to decide anymore.
Yeah.
We can do both simultaneously. We can fly to the Moon, test the systems, already bring habitats, pressurized
rovers. This was also
rovers.
a proposal somebody mentioned at the beginning of this live stream. And sorry, I forgot your name, but somebody already mentioned that the Moon would be the perfect test ground for Mars. Right?
Absolutely.
For so many reasons.
Yeah, exactly. It's a perfect testing ground. We actually don't have any experience yet living for longer times on other worlds. We just went to the Moon. We barely scratched the surface with Apollo. It was we went there and then the US said, okay, that's enough. Then Apollo got cancelled in 1972, the last mission. Yeah. And since then it was only a down slope from there, you know. And only Elon restored the US's capability recently to do anything in space. And
thanks a lot, Larry Adam, for your super chat. So the question from Larry is,
Thanks,
do
Larry.
the mass drive give any validity to the Tesla Tower technology?
M drive. What is the M drive? Larry Adam asks, do the M drive give any validity to the Tesla Tower technology? But I don't know what an M drive is. It's certainly not a drive based on some weird technology, I think. But we would have to look into what M drive is. EM, you don't mean EM drive, but the EM drive is kind of controversial, but we haven't heard M drive yet, to be honest.
And thanks
So we're
for
really
the
sorry.
super sticker, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
Michael, I'm sorry.
Michelle M. Thank you, Michelle M, for
Hi.
your super sticker. Thank you so much. But M drive, what the hell is M drive? That sounds interesting. Sounds like a cool name. Thank you, Gary Tippis, for your donation. Thank you so much. Are there any other amazing questions? Okay, there's the next super chat. Thank you so much, Salio1.
From Hong Kong.
From Hong Kong. Awesome. Regardless if it's Moon or Mars, he likes Mars, but I love your channel and hope you go so far to the future. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
To the future, right?
Of course, to the future. Thank you so much. And any other questions? Maybe, I mean, now it's still Moon to Mars, or like Moon and Mars, maybe like genetic engineering or Fermi Paradox, if someone is interested in these topics. Because there were some people kind of disappointed that Moon and Mars won again in the poll. So if we can talk about Fermi Paradox and genetic engineering, would also be quite interesting maybe.
And Eric Space is here. He does lots of. Hi, Eric.
Hi, Eric.
You do really amazing Starship animations and renders.
Yeah, his renders are also absolutely incredible,
Yeah.
and we use them also quite often.
Yeah.
And we really thank you, Eric, for all these amazing space animations you do.
Yeah, and I think somebody asked before if there are like any interior designs for Starship already, either for the Mars or lunar Starship. And Eric also did. He's working lots of renders on that topic too, so we can check out him on Twitter, and he also started a YouTube channel, so it's called Eric Space. Be sure to check him out. And he asked how long in advance we plan our videos.
How long in advance do we plan them?
Depends on the topics, right?
I think so. We write. So what is our current schedule? I think we write this. We do the research, write the basic idea, the scripts and everything on one day.
So basically 1 day before we upload the video, because
Yeah.
and in the past we tried to record more in one batch, but then the news wasn't so timely anymore.
Yeah, that
So
was
now-
a disadvantage.
So since maybe 2 months ago, we do the video today and then we upload tomorrow. So we want to keep the news up to date.
Yeah, exactly. We tried to shorten the time to 1 day.
Yeah.
And that was the problem with the disruption report, because we couldn't manage to do so many shootings. And then basically the disruption report was a bit late every time.
So now we are changing up a bit with the disruption report. If you can go more deep in one topic, which is like not only based on the news, but also the latest developments. So we
Yeah.
can plan ahead a bit more. So it's more relaxing for us, and we can
It's not
also
so
edit
stressful,
the
exactly.
video to better quality, because we also want to keep quality.
Yeah, we want to keep quality high, and we don't like to get a burnout, you know. It's also something which YouTube is very dangerous of sometimes, that you keep pumping out videos and you keep working like a berserk, and next thing you know you get a burnout because you don't did enough pauses and recreation. So that's also quite important, right? Absolutely. So this is from Maker Meter. Thank you so much for your donation, Maker Meter. Have we forgotten Venus Colony? Love you guys. Thank you so much. We also love you, of course. And have we forgotten Venus Colony? That's always like, should we colonize also Venus? The problem with Venus is, of course, that we can only build cloud cities. Like, we can only build floating balloon cities. So we cannot land on the surface. The surface is like 480 degrees Celsius surface temperature, 90 bar surface pressure. That's crazy. Like, that's an insane place. So we need to build floating balloon cities. And the problem is, like, surface is also a nice thing to stand on. Like, it's good to stand on a surface sometimes. And floating around might also have some risks, you know. It needs to be very, very fail-safe and redundant, Because if some balloons start popping for some reason, that would be very bad on Venus, very bad. So it's like there are some dangers also involved with that. Until it is figured out and the balloon cities are 100% fail-safe, I think still some time will pass. But apart from that, the upper layers of Venus are interesting because the temperature is very Earth-like, the pressure is very Earth-like, and the gravity, most importantly, is I think 90% Earth gravity. So you don't have the problem of low gravity, which you have on Mars, where genetic engineering might be interesting.
That's the second topic in our title, right?
Yes, exactly. So
we already talked, I think, about like a mighty mice experiment from the ISS. I think it was conducted like early this year. I think it was like the mice was sent by Crew Dragon, or no, not Crew Dragon, the Falcon 9 Dragon capsule to the ISS for about 1 month. This was NASA experiment. And the mice, they were genetically engineered to lack myostatin. It's like a protein. So if your myostatin is inhibited, it enhances muscle growth. So the mice, they had, of course, compare the mice which was treated with this method and the mice wasn't treated. So the treated mice, they didn't lose any muscle or bone mass on the ISS for 1 month, and some of them even gained muscle or bone mass. And compared to the untreated mice, they lost lots of bone and muscle mass.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it might maybe be a good idea to modify us for the future habitation of Mars, because we don't know exactly how the lower gravity will affect us long term, because right now we don't have any research for like gravities below 0 and 1. So it might be a good idea to maybe genetically modify humans, you know, maybe this would be a good idea, because building, for example, huge centrifuges or huge O'Neill cylinders in space, and this is like super insanely like super complicated to do and requires insane technology. But genetic modification, genetic engineering, we can already do it now.
Yeah. And the other thing is also like the astronauts on the ISS, they have to, I think, do lots of cardiovascular workouts and also resistance trainings. So probably 2 hours per day, something like that. And for a long voyage to Mars, of course, if you have like 30 people in a Starship, I don't know if you would have enough equipment for everyone to do it like every day. Probably it's not so efficient, and you would also rather spend your time probably doing some science experiments or just relaxing. Yeah,
that's a good point. If in Starship, basically, if you wouldn't have any rotation, any sort of rotation in Starship, if it would be really 0G during the whole voyage, you would need a huge amount of space for a gym, basically, where you would have to train every day, like resistance training. And that would also, of course, the crew would then require more oxygen, you know, and then you would need more oxygen. So it takes away space, you need to take more oxygen. So maybe, first of all, we think that centrifugal rotation is important on trips to Mars and back. So starships should certainly have centrifugal rotation. But on top, it might be a good idea to modify us that way that we have increased bone and muscle mass, and that we are just basically protected genetically from losing bone and muscle mass and developing some sorts of heart disease and stuff like that, which is a real danger when we stay in low gravity for too long periods of time, because the research on the ISS indicates that astronauts have a higher risk of developing heart disease and, you know, other things which are very detrimental to the health. So
yeah. And Brian Seeley,
thank you so much, Brian.
You always watch our videos, we know that. Thank you so much. And
thank you so much for the donation.
Yeah, you have been supporting us for such a long time. And we also have some other super chats from
Thank you, Nano, for the donation. Thank you so much, Nano. And thank you, Brandon Wilkins, for your generous donation.
We love you too.
Love you too, of course.
And I think we have it was reviewed, it was the EM drive, I think.
Ah, the EM drive.
Yeah.
Yes, I meant the EM drive. Okay, now it makes more sense because I was thinking about M theory, you know, superstring theory, harnessing 11-dimensional hyperspace and stuff like that.
So he's a doctor in physics, that's why.
I was immediately thinking about, is this guy meaning M theory or what? Am I just crazy now? But now everything is clear again. Thank you for clarifying that. So EM drive, yes. EM drive is a bit controversial. So the experiments are not conclusive yet. It's hard to say. There are some like saying, we have made the EM drive getting to work in the lab. But the problem is then other people try to replicate the experiment and the results are not conclusive. So we don't know yet if the EM drive actually works. And the problem is also it would violate some laws of physics also. Which is, you know, it's always a big problem if something violates laws of physics, conservation of momentum, because in the EM drive, basically you would create momentum from, how exactly the people themselves don't also know. They just apply some electromagnetic forces and they supposedly see it moving with a force into a certain direction, but it is not fully replicated yet, and there's not a peer-reviewed scientific paper yet, or some scientific journals like confirming this. So it's like still not confirmed in our opinion.
Yeah, and we have two different questions. One from Nano. If we think SpaceX will use a super heavy booster as a fuel depot in LEO?
That is interesting. Nano, good question. Super heavy as a fuel depot. That could be, that's an interesting idea. I mean, fuel depots are certainly a good idea to have in LEO because refueling one Starship, I think, requires 6 launches from a refueling Starship.
The tanker Starship, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so 6 launches for one full refueling of a regular Starship, if it wants to launch to Mars. Okay, with one Starship maybe, but now imagine the famous Elon's fleet of 1,000 Starships. This is impossible. So certainly refueling depots in orbits would be nice, but then I think we come back to the thing from before. The moon would be even nicer. The moon. Because on the moon you can, like, as we said before, you can probably extract enough methane from the regolith. You can shoot it in capsules into orbit. You can build everything from moon resources and get easy access to moon orbit. You can assemble everything and then from the moon you start, and your escape velocity is of course much lower than from Earth. So we think...
That's why we thought it's possible actually to colonize the moon and Mars simultaneously, right?
Yes, exactly.
And then we have the question from Brian.
Hi, Brian Seeley.
Would a commercial space station, possibly just starships linked together, make sense? Pre-moon or Mars?
That is an interesting question. So basically, of course, Starship has a huge interior volume, right?
Yeah, so you just basically park the Starship in Earth or Moon orbit, so you basically have your space station.
Yes, you have like one Starship has more interior pressurized volume, I think, than the entire ISS. Like 1,000 cubic meters compared to the ISS's 910, 920, so even more than the ISS. So of course, if you would link some Starships together, like this, for example, 4 Starship at the noses somehow together, and then you could even, or like this, and you can link them at the ends somehow, you know, more Starships, kind of a Starship star, you know, kind of a Starship star, and then you just rotate it, then you even have artificial gravity.
But how would you use it, or what would be the purpose for that?
So he said pre-moon. He said pre-moon and Mars. So if we really want to colonize the moon and Mars as fast as possible, I think this would deter from our goal. So this would delay our goal. That is just my opinion. I think we should really focus strongly on the moon and Mars, because we have wasted 50 years in low Earth orbit. Low Earth orbit is nice, but it doesn't get us anywhere. It's like, it doesn't get us anywhere. We have been here since 50 years in low Earth orbit, and it's time now to go back to the moon, because we already have been there 50 years ago. And so I think this would maybe deter us a bit too much, yeah.
And we have another kind message from Boris Brodsky from
Boris
Düsseldorf.
Brodsky.
So he's
Thank you
also
so much.
living in Germany, where
Yes.
we live.
He's awesome, and he also had some really excellent ideas with Starship. We gave him a shout out once because he's the awesome guy who came up or like sent us the idea of a kind of a kicker booster Starship, because we were talking once about the notion of Starship reaching Mars in 3 months instead of 6 months, right? And we were kind of skeptical about it. So can it really be done? And Boris Brodsky came up with the idea of a star kicker or star like booster Starship, which would just have the purpose of basically giving an extra push to Starship. So it would just be a fully fueled Starship without crew or anything. It would just give an extra push to Starship and then decelerate again and fly back to Earth. And just this extra push might maybe under the right circumstances be enough to reduce travel time.
So he's doing some nice calculations,
Yes.
and he will keep us and you also updated.
Exactly.
And we have nice donation from Rick R.
Thank you, Ricker.
Yeah.
Like, thank you so
You
much.
always watch our videos. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for your generous donation.
And I think there was like a really nice question from another SpaceNet about the Fermi Paradox.
Wow, thank you so much. Another space nut, awesome.
You always ask excellent
Finally
questions.
something about the Fermi Paradox. Thank you so much, Space Nut. Thank you so much. I have a question about the Fermi Paradox. Do you think we are looking for the wrong signatures?
That's right into Sebastian's
Oh, that is so nice.
territory. That's his favorite topic.
Finally
He can hold a speech now.
Finally I can hold a speech. No, I'm just joking. We are looking for bio maybe instead of techno. So I think that you've hit it head on, the problem, I think basically, which is plaguing SETI currently, the search for extraterrestrial.
By the way, the Grady Flieger also asked about the Fermi Paradox. So
Awesome.
Servus, thanks a lot for your
Thank
interest.
you so much.
We are sorry that we are reacting a bit too late to that.
So, hi Greggy Flieger, and sorry for the late delay. So thank you for having interest in the Fermi Paradox. That's always something which makes us angry because you might have noticed we sometimes rant about things. And one thing that always makes us angry if we see all those hundreds of videos about the Fermi Paradox and the big filter. Basically saying like, oh yeah, we haven't found anything, so the most logical solution is that there must be a big filter. This is, I don't know, this feels to me sometimes like when I search, for example, something at home, sometimes I don't find it, and then I say to her, oh, sorry, Schatz, I haven't found it, it must have disappeared.
Somebody said your mic is making some noise.
Is my mic making noise? Really? I don't know. Should be okay. So this feels to me like I'm searching something for 5 minutes, I don't find it, oh, it's not there. Okay, I've looked everywhere. You tell me, for example, to look if I find, I don't know, something at home, and I say, sorry, Schatz, I've looked for 5 minutes, it doesn't exist. There must be some big filter. There must be some big filter, the filtering out these things. So that's how this feels to me. And basically, we are looking only for radio, first of all. Like, we're looking for radio signals. Like, how hilarious is that? First of all, radio. Like, how long have we been using radio waves? Like
Larry Bacon said, the answer to the Fermi Paradox, is it too soon to tell?
It's certainly too soon to tell a definitive answer, but we have a suspicion. And we always apply Occam's razor. If you know Occam's razor, it's the rule that the most probable solution is the most obvious one. And we think the most obvious one is that we humans are just not highly evolved enough, that we are just not yet having technologies sophisticated enough to answer these questions, because we don't have the methodology and the instruments necessary to find life on other planets. We are even not capable of having the definitive answer if there's life on Mars. Isn't that funny? Is there life on Mars?
We don't even know that for sure.
I mean, there are some, like Angry Astronaut made a very good video about it. He interviewed Dr. Levine from the Viking experiment, and basically Dr. Levine from the Viking lander experiment.
Oh, it's wrapping on the zebra problem.
Okay.
We hope now it's better.
So yeah, Dr. Levine from the Viking experiment basically still thinking that there is life on Mars, that the Viking probes really detected life on Mars. So we are not even able, after 50 years, almost 50 years of flying to Mars, to answer the question if there's life on Mars, and yet we have the arrogance to say we haven't discovered alien life yet, there must be a big filter. There must be a big filter. That's like sure, right? Because I mean, we are probably surrounded by life in our own solar system and are not even capable of answering the questions. There is life on Mars, in the clouds of Venus, in the oceans of Europa, you know, the Jupiter moon Europa. There could be life down there, Enceladus. So many places, and we still don't know. And technosignatures, for example, is also interesting. We have just barely started even being able to discover exoplanets. And these are huge things, planets. And we are not even capable right now of confirming the existence of Earth-sized exoplanets, for example, in star systems which are like only a few light years away. We still don't know how many planets Proxima Centauri has, which is the nearest star, 4.3 light years away. We don't even have a definitive answer to that.
And also it's super difficult to detect, like, I don't know if spaceship fleets or even like a Death Star from Star Wars, even if they were just in Proxima Centauri, so the nearest star system to our solar system. So we also like watching science fiction, and you always see these giant structures in the science fiction movies or read it in the books, or giant starship fleet. But even if they were just in Proxima Centauri, we cannot detect them, not yet, with our current technologies.
Yes, we are not even sure how many planets. There are only 2 confirmed planets in the Proxima system. There are probably quite a few more, but we are still not sure yet, because our instruments are not sophisticated enough. So with James Webb Space Telescope, that's why James Webb is so awesome.
But they are still delaying it.
Yes, they are still unfortunately delaying it. So we will have the capability to maybe register, like we can look at the atmospheres of certain exoplanets and then look for biosignatures. And the next step after biosignatures, so detecting possible life, for example, lots of oxygen or lots of methane is a quite good hint that there is probably life. We could also look for technosignatures, for example, ozone or fluorochlorocarbons, lots of gases which are only created through technological processes. We might be able to detect this with James Webb, but we don't have that capability yet. So it's absolutely no wonder that we don't see signs of huge civilizations everywhere, because our instruments are just so ridiculous. So we're looking like with ridiculous instruments since a few decades, and we haven't really even done complete searches. Like, this is absolutely incomplete. This is like ridiculous what we've done until now. Yet we say, yeah, we've looked everywhere, there's no one there. So there must be a big filter. There must be a big filter.
So maybe a change, a small interruption.
Of course.
And the ion thruster.
So, hi Lavery Adam.
Again.
Why do you think, thank you so much for the donation first of all. Why do you think the ion thruster doesn't really get much attention? Well, the ion thruster is it's an interesting development. I think really that long term it will play an important role, like Hall effect thruster, ion drive, ion thrusters. They will become more and more important. The problem is that anything, also nuclear thermal propulsion, for example, also doesn't get a lot of recognition. Basically, the problem is we've been confined to Earth for such a long time that there was no need. Why do we need new systems of propulsion if we fly to low Earth orbit? Because that was the case since 50 years, only with the small interruption of the Apollo program. So that everything was put on hold. Yeah, we don't really need it. So everything which is not chemical propulsion, like the classical chemical propulsion which we know from Starship or SLS and Saturn V, this is basically the mainstream form of propulsion, and everything which goes beyond is still like super, not mainstream. It's still like kind of far out, even though the technology is there. But it's like I think once we have real interplanetary travel and we have colonies on the Moon and Mars, and maybe want to go further now, so after Mars, then the question might arise, now probably we will need new modes of propulsion, and then those new modes of propulsion will probably become much more important. And then I think the ion thrusters, Hall effect thrusters, magnetoplasma rockets, Casimir, and all this stuff will become much more prominent, I think.
Step by step.
Patrick Love, thank you so much for your donation, Patrick. What if aliens are using gravity waves as carrier waves? Also, what are your thoughts about Oumuamua, alien probe, acceleration after passing the sun? Amazing points, my friend, amazing points. What if aliens are using gravity waves? That is, first of all, quite interesting, because gravity waves are actually distortions of space-time, ripples in space-time, which are, for example, created when two neutron stars collide or black holes merge, neutron stars merge, and such cosmic events, they create gravity waves and they carry information. So modulating space-time, if, for example, an alien civilization would have a better understanding of quantum gravity and they could somehow harness space-time itself and modulate space-time in some certain way with some advanced technology, then they might actually be able to use space-time to transmit information, because we can detect gravity waves from billions of light years away here on Earth with LIGO, for example, the gravity wave detector LIGO. So it is possible. There's nothing saying it cannot be done. But you would need to harness some quite freaky physics for that. If you don't want to collide neutron stars, which is impractical and probably impossible. So what are your thoughts about Oumuamua? That is also a very excellent question. There was this very elongated object, you remember, right? Which came from another star system. Like it was the first interstellar object passing in our solar system, passing through the solar system. And it had a very bizarre acceleration deceleration curve. So basically it was like, they thought like, what's going on, you know? And Avi Loeb, a very cool researcher whom I really like, put forth the idea that this could actually be a solar sail of sorts. A solar sail from a interstellar civilization or from an extraterrestrial civilization, which basically sends a probe to us to check out our solar system. And this is actually, Avi Loeb made a paper on that, and basically he says that the characteristics, acceleration and deceleration characteristics of Oumuamua would very much fit a solar sail. So it could have been a solar sail. Unfortunately, the object is now so far away we will never find out. And there are of course 100,000 other papers saying no, this is of course crap. It was some sort of weird comet with some sort of weird composition, which will explain why it did that. It had this peculiar acceleration curve. But that is also, by the way, a problem of humanity. Where are all the aliens? They might be here. We might already have seen signals and found stuff, but we are always trying our best to come up with some natural phenomena that explain it, right? For example, there were some signals, some steady signals were discovered, you know, from TYC or...
you mean the TYC 1220911? We covered in one of our earliest videos. Yeah,
there was, for example, there are over the time some weird signals which are registered, but we say like, okay, they are bizarre, but yeah, they don't fit our criteria because they don't repeat in some certain intervals. But that is also quite an arbitrary thing. We say it has
because our telescope is also not not looking into the same direction all the time, right?
Yes, because if like a civilization would really want to transmit signals, it will not transmit signals into all directions. This is like insane. You need insane amounts of energy. You will pulse it into a narrow beam, very much directed towards a certain target. So this beam would really need to look directly into our direction. If not, we won't see it. And also, if it passes us, imagine a rotating kind of beacon, kind of a rotating beacon which sends signals. It will pass us with a certain probability, which is not really high, of course. And then if we only see this one signal, we will say, okay, there's only one signal. It's not extraterrestrial. It's probably some kind of background noise, some other astrophysical phenomenon. So we will say, no, that doesn't count. And basically, we might have already detected quite a few signals, which are interesting. The WOW signal is, of course, famous, but I think this has already been kind of debunked now. Probably it has been some source which is not of interstellar origin, but there are a lot of signals which are really bizarre. You know, so there's also Pchebylski star is also another good example. There's a star basically which has a lot of plutonium in it, and there's no known mechanism, from physics, like no known mechanism of stellar evolution being able to explain this. And it's like, yeah, there might be some problem.
In order to be sure, we have to basically look into all directions all the time.
Exactly.
And the intelligent alien civilization, they also have to be willing to send out such strong signals.
They have to be willing to send out, and they would do it in an economical way probably, because it costs a lot of resources. We don't just build huge antenna, like gigantic planet-sized antenna, and send huge signals into all directions. That is uneconomical. So you would do it in an economical way, and then you have very narrow pulsed signals which only go into one direction. So you would only see them once every maybe 10, 20, 30, 50 hours. But the problem is we don't look so long. We look for a few minutes. If it doesn't repeat, ciao. It's not a steady
But maybe we
signal.
should change the topic a bit.
Okay, sorry.
You don't want to bore our
I'm getting carried away.
Too many signals.
Getting carried away with SETI a bit, sorry. What do you know about China's Moon and Mars plans?
Thanks, Marker Meter, again.
Thanks, Maker Meter. Thanks for the donation. China's Moon and Mars plans. So basically, they are doing a lot of Mars probes right now. So they sent their probe to Mars. It also contains a rover, and they are very active in exploring Mars. But as far as I know, for Mars, they don't have any manned missions yet. But for the Moon, they are quite open about it, right? They say that like they want to land on the Moon by 2030, and they want to build a moon base by 2030. Am I right?
That's basically information we have.
Yeah.
We talked about a few times in our old videos.
Yeah. So about the year 2030, they will want to land on the Moon, and they just recently at a conference in China showed some new slides of their space program, how they want to achieve.
So they're basically copying the Crew Dragon, which we all already know, the Red Dragon.
Yeah.
And but their moon rocket, I think, isn't planned to be reusable, right?
No, yeah, you're right. It looks like a Falcon Heavy, their moon rocket, but it's not reusable, and it doesn't exist yet. What exists is their deep space capsule, so their Red Dragon deep space capsule, and they also don't have a moon lander yet. But they are really open about it, that they want to do it in the next 10 years. However, they also want to build a space station, right? So
they have around, I think, $10 billion per year as budget, the Chinese Space Agency. Yeah. So it's a question if they would have enough money to build it.
Yeah.
So I mean, in our opinion, they should just go for the moon straightforward without building the next space station. That would also again put America a bit under pressure. So NASA also would feel the need to send people to the moon as soon as possible. That would be our ideal scenario. But we don't know what China will do. Probably really they want to first build the space station, and then the question of course is how fast could they progress with their moon plans?
We think it's a bad idea of China to build a space station first. It is not smart because they're basically copying the mistake, like, oh, the US made this mistake of building space stations, we will also do it. And this diverts basically a lot of resources which they could use for the moon and Mars, and instead they build a useless space station. Like, why?
But they still have to work a lot on their rocket, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But yeah, I think China will land on the moon in 10 years, and this will certainly put America under pressure if they don't have managed to land until then.
And thanks for the super chat, David. And
thanks, David.
You suggest the mathematical astronomy group. We will have a look later, certainly. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we will take a look. MeWe.com.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Trex. Thank you so much for your donation. Please, your thoughts about the tragic closure of Arecibo Radio Observatory.
Yeah,
keep up the good work.
That's really sad, right?
That is sad, and actually also fitting with the SETI, because Arecibo, the radio telescope in Arecibo, was really an icon of SETI, of Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. Yes. And it did radio observations for so many decades, and it was like this, it's very famous, this huge dish bowl which is basically implanted surrounded by hills because it's so huge. And it was now recently surpassed by the China telescope, which is even larger. But yeah, it has been destroyed or like very severely damaged in some kind of cable rupture event.
Do you know if they have plans already to build a new one?
I don't know about any plans to build a successor. So it will be decommissioned now, which is really sad because it was an amazing radio telescope, and now China will basically have the largest radio telescope in the world, and there are no plans to build a new one, right? Which is a bit sad, yeah. Quite sad. Any other interesting questions?
Of course, they have lots.
Always questions. Amazing.
We have lots of interesting questions from Jay Carey.
Hi Jay Carey, thank you so much for your donation. What modifications does Boring Company have to make for boring machines to work on the moon and Mars, or maybe asteroids?
And we are first very happy that you are interested in the Boring Company.
Absolutely. The Boring Company is a very fascinating company and vastly underrated, right?
Yeah.
And Will has done the awesome channel A Boring Revolution.
Yeah. Our good friend Will, probably you still remember him. We did together our Boring Company on Mars video.
Yeah.
So his YouTube channel is called A Boring Revolution. It's really awesome. He does like updates on Boring Company in great detail every week.
Yeah, it's really an awesome channel.
So back to the question.
Exactly. So modifications, I don't think it would have to do a lot of modifications. So the main thing they would have to do is make them lighter, because those things weigh brutally much. I don't know how much a boring machine weighs, certainly more than 100 metric tons, I think.
Yeah, we calculated that you really have to disassemble it, and the first one have to brought by Starship to the moon or Mars, like part by part.
Yes, and the major modification would be to make them lighter. So the engineers at the Boring Company should maybe think of ways to severely reduce the weight of those machines, like at least by a factor of 2, so that you can bring them to the moon and Mars easier. But once you are there, I don't think they would need a lot of modifications.
But we could be wrong. If you know anything, please tell us.
Yeah, it's just our opinion, we could be wrong. But I think if they can dig tunnels if they can dig tunnels here on Earth, the regolith and the structure of stone on the moon and Mars is actually even more benign, because the average density of the moon and Mars is lower than on Earth. So normally it should be quite fine. You don't need a lot of modification. But that's just our opinion. We could be wrong on that, of course. Anything else? Josh French, hello. Hello, Josh French. What's your favorite sci-fi movie? Uptown Maybe 25. Hi, Uptown Maybe 25. What's my favorite sci-fi? Mine is Blade Runner. Blade Runner is the best sci-fi movie of all time for me.
Yeah, you see the book back there? Where is the book?
Sid Mead here. Sid Mead, the famous designer of all the artwork and all the props and all the requisites from Blade Runner. I think he was a design genius. He was a sci-fi design genius. And Blade Runner is amazing. It's like the atmosphere, the set design, still 40 years later, insane.
And we have an interesting question from Aaron Plack. What about low Earth orbit 3D printing body parts, eyes, hearts, lungs might be more important than going to the moon?
Hi, Aaron Plug. That's a very good question. Actually, printing body parts in low Earth orbit might be an excellent idea because you could, in zero G, this stuff grows really nicely. You can print elaborate parts with 3D printers, don't have to worry about being deformed by gravity. Very intricate, small, like structures. You know, on Earth, you always have to worry about.
That's why you need like the Starship space stations.
That's a good point. The Starship space stations could come in quite handy for that. So maybe that's not a bad thing. But you said instead more important than going to the moon. That is debatable. So going to the moon and Mars is really important because if some catastrophe happens here on Earth, we are dead. It's like humanity's game over, you know. So it's quite also a good idea to build colonies on the moon and Mars so that humanity has like a backup plan in case something goes wrong.
That's always our favorite argument, right?
Yeah, that's like, but it's valid probably. We had a donation from someone which I kind of, Rich Chrono, thank you so much, Rich Chrono, for your generous donation. Thank you so much.
And we also have
Sean
Thompson.
Wow, Sean, thank you so much for your generous donation. We feel very flattered and honored. I have been listening to every episode for almost a year. You guys are very entertaining and present good information. Happy holidays. Why are you not on Patreon? First of all, thank you so much for watching our videos. We feel really honored and flattered and happy, and we are always surprised if someone says that, right? I mean, we are always feel like a bit. We always think the others are much more amazing.
Probably also because of my accent. So Sebastian, I'm dragging Sebastian down basically because of my weird Chinese, German, English accent. I'm really sorry.
No.
And I really appreciate that you are now watching us despite my accent.
No. Yeah, the accent, of course, we're not native speakers, and for Chinese people it's a bit difficult because the language is just totally different.
So back to the question why we don't have Patreon.
Yeah, so why don't we have Patreon? Because we feel a bit ashamed somehow. It feels weird for us to accept money still. We didn't have any form of donation whatsoever for the longest time. And then people said, why cannot we donate anything? And we're like, yeah, I don't know, why not? Feels weird to us, you know? And then we had to warm up to this, and it took us a few months. And then you implemented PayPal, right?
Yeah, we have a PayPal me link.
Yeah, so you can donate on via PayPal and even Bitcoin.
Yeah.
We're cryptocurrency freaks a bit.
You know, we are earning already a bit money with YouTube because YouTube is presenting always ads to you during the videos, and
yeah, so we just feel that it's quite okay what we earn from the YouTube ad revenue and so on. So we don't really want to say like, hey guys, give us more money and so on. It feels a bit strange to us somehow. Maybe that's our just strange European or maybe we've been raised.
But it's also because we know
way.
A lot of other amazing YouTubers, they do Patreon and they also provide a lot of great perks on Patreon. And currently we are already quite occupied with making 2 to 3 videos per week. So we don't really know what kind of extra value we could offer you. So that's also another reason. We might reconsider in the future, but now we are quite happy with our current
that's a good point.
Current plan and also revenue.
Yeah.
So we have something else from Sovereign Sky.
Hi, Sovereign Sky. Thank you for the donation. Sorry if you covered already. How do you feel about the Artemis Accords? Going by one statement, it seems SpaceX isn't the biggest fan of it like me. Well, the Artemis Accords are basically a guidebook or set of rules for common exploration of the moon and how international partners should work together for future exploration of the moon.
But I think Germany didn't sign it, right?
Not yet. Italy signed it.
Yeah.
And some other countries, Germany not yet, but I think it's just a matter of time basically until the European Union will probably jointly sign it in some form. Yeah.
But I didn't know that SpaceX made any statements on it.
I also didn't catch it that SpaceX made an official statement on the Artemis Accords. But
I mean, it was basically a more or less a modern version of the space treaty, right? It's not, doesn't add so many new things.
It's an updated version of the space treaty, and the Russians think it's too US centric as always, of course, but I think it's not bad to have an update of the space treaty, but then again, of course, SpaceX probably won't need it anyways, so SpaceX, of course, will probably do their own thing.
And lately there was this famous tweet from Elon. There was some tweets from Elon, and also people spotted in the user agreement in Starlink that Elon wants Mars to be independent anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Elon wants Mars to be independent, and he's not a fan of some government guidebook or set of rules. Anyways, we know that, right? So
I mean, besides SpaceX or NASA, and probably China has some good space agency, Indian. I mean, not so many nations, they actually have their own rockets to be able to reach the moon or Mars yet. So, so how it develops, we can only see in the future probably.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. The next is Patrick Löwe. Patrick Löwe, thank you so much for your donation. Is there any potential Biden-friendly NASA administrator we could petition for that may help Moon and Mars progress?
That's a really great question. We don't know. But if anybody knows, please let us know.
Anyone knows good NASA administrators who are Biden-friendly, like potential future candidates who are like Moon and Mars friendly and who would just continue the Artemis program in the way Jim Bridenstine did, then it would be really nice to know which one would be the best one. So if you have any information on that, we would be happy to share it then and talk about it.
We will also share our video, of course.
Of course.
Oh, Maker Meter, thank you so much.
Wow, thank you so much for your donation, Maker Meter, for your awesome donation.
Yeah, again, and thanks a lot for tolerating our accents.
Thank you so much for tolerating our accents.
Greeting to you, Finland and China.
Greeting back to Finland and China. Amazing.
Okay.
And Sergio Di Giacinto, I hope we pronounced your name correctly. Sergio Di Giacinto, awesome name. Thank you so much.
Where are you from?
Thank you so much for your donation. And yeah, amazing. So, something else?
Maybe again,
Dennis
about
Roberts.
propulsion.
Dennis Roberts asks,
how do you feel about using water plasma propulsion as a kick stage for speeding Mars travel?
Water plasma propulsion as a kick stage for speeding Mars travel. Water plasma. So, I mean, plasma propulsion is highly interesting anyways, right? I mean, basically a magnetoplasma rocket is basically the holy grail of interplanetary travel. So having a plasma rocket would greatly cut down travel time. I mean, this is like the principle of the Vesemir, probably. Like the Vesemir, the variable specific impulse magnetoplasma rocket. And it uses a superheated plasma and some complicated array of magnetic fields to accelerate the plasma, basically. And plasma is amazing. It has a brutal specific impulse. You don't need a very high amount of fuel to take with you, so the fuel efficiency is of course much better than with chemical rockets, and you would cut down travel time. So plasma is awesome. It's always good.
And we had a question from Sergio Di. You can help me out with the name.
Sergio Di Giacinto again. It would be great to know more about the Russian program development. Much love, guys. Thank you so much. We often talk about Russia, but sometimes not in the best way. But this is not because we don't like Russians, but because the current chief of the Russian space agency, Roscosmos, is a weird guy, in our opinion, and he does funny remarks, and he's like I don't know, this guy is basically doing one hilarious remark after the other. But the Russian space agency, they did some amazing things.
Yeah, but they are also now sharing so many updates on their, like the reusable rocket plans or the reusable space capsule plans, quite similar to the Chinese.
They are a bit...
To my folks,
yeah.
They are all a bit secretive, right?
Yeah, they are a bit secretive.
But if you know any good sources about the Russian space flight plans, how they are progressing with their Falcon 9 copy, please let us know. We would love to know if they are really pursuing that route or they are just saying it.
Yeah, the Amur rocket, they announced it. They want to build their own reusable rocket, Amur rocket, but then they said, we don't want to share any information anymore. And basically every few years they say, we will build a moon base. But they have been doing that also like the Americans since decades now. Every few years they announce, soon we will build a moon base. And 10, 20 years later there's still no moon base. So obviously it also cannot be taken so seriously. But yeah, the Russians want to align themselves now more with China, which is really interesting. So that could be kind of an interesting development in space right now. A new space bloc, China and Russia working together on moon landings maybe. That could be an interesting development. Because Dmitry Rogozin openly said that the current space program is too US-centric and that Russia wants to align themselves more with China, right? So that could be an interesting development.
Yes, and a very interesting question from Mike Cardosh. If he asked, do you think that NASA and other government agencies will eventually vanish because of commercial and private space companies like SpaceX?
That's a very good question. What do you think?
It's difficult to tell, right? I think so. If my first reaction would be not, because SpaceX is currently also their biggest customers, their largest customer is probably NASA.
Yeah. So I think government agencies will greatly diminish, but they will not completely vanish. Because government always has some kind of power.
Yeah.
And they will probably kind of like force or like try to force private companies to like take them, hey guys, take us with you to the moon and Mars, you know. So it will be like, okay, SpaceX might build a Starship, and then NASA will probably like just say, can you please ride along with you to the moon and Mars and so on. And
as for now, like I don't think that SpaceX has own like astronaut training program, right? It's like
not yet, no.
All the and as for now, we don't. Private passengers for a flight to the moon is not the usual case yet. So let's see how the Dear Moon mission will play out. But as current all trained astronauts are from the government agencies.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but in the future, who knows? I mean, the role will certainly diminish. So the role of government agencies might diminish with regards to human spaceflight. But there are still scientific missions. There are still like Earth observation, climate observation satellites. There are like lots of education things going on in the background. There's like there are all the probes NASA sent, for example, to Mars and the outer solar system, the Voyager probes, and so many things. So the government agencies still will have their use case. I think
they will still give out the missions basically.
Probably, yeah.
And SpaceX also does more and more mission for the Air Force, the Space Force.
Yeah, exactly. So the government agencies will just say, we will just use this convenient Starship system and put our sticker on it and pay SpaceX, and SpaceX will certainly not say no to nice funds from NASA and other government agencies.
Yes, and Elon always said that SpaceX is like a transportation company, so either NASA or other companies have to basically come up with mission ideas or what they want to send to the moon or to Mars.
Yeah, exactly. James Dowling, thank you so much for your generous donation.
You are also amazing. Thanks a lot.
You are also amazing, of course. Yes. So, anything else? There are so many fascinating questions today. Thank you so much for attending and asking all these amazing questions. We hope we're kind of doing a good job answering them. We're just talking what we think, but we might be wrong, by the way. Be always aware, please, that we might be sometimes wrong. So,
and Colin Stewart asked, can I buy a Crew Dragon capsule to go from one place to another on Earth?
buy a Crew Dragon capsule. Buying one, I mean, that would be nice, buying one. But probably you mean like renting one, or like basically Earth-to-Earth transport with Crew Dragon. I think this is only intended for Starship. The Earth-to-Earth transport basically with Starship will be economically viable. You could, of course, if you have insane amounts of money and you just want to joke around, you could use, of course, Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon and just kick yourself into low Earth orbit or like suborbital and then immediately re-enter again not long later, and then you have basically covered quite a large distance and made a trip in Crew Dragon, but that would be a bit excessive. I think no one has so much money probably to do such stuff. And
we have another super chat, and that's message from Soaring Sky. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Soaring Sky.
And you said the biggest appeal of space to you is the independence of exploring and living without any connections to the mother planet.
Yeah, that is a really big appeal. The notion of that we can live on other worlds and being independent from Earth. Basically very much like in history of humanity.
But
America.
it's more easy for Mars than for the moon, right? The moon is too close to Earth.
Yeah, the moon is so close to Earth, it's of course much easier to do it with the moon.
Yeah.
On Mars, that is of course a bigger challenge, but I think it's perfectly natural and perfectly human to explore to spread to new environments. We have always done it. Like since humanity exists, that's what we do. That's what we do.
But if you want to have like an independent colony or independent government, it's easier to do it on Mars, right? Because it's so further away, and Mars has better conditions actually compared to the moon. Has more resources, it's bigger.
Has a similar rotation period.
Had a big atmosphere, better radiation protection because of the thin atmosphere.
Absolutely correct, yeah. So
possibility for terraforming in the far future, in the next century.
Mars has some advantages, of course, but I think really like the notion of being independent is really a good one, and it's perfectly human behavior. We always did it in the history of humanity, and I mean America or Australia, those countries developed from colonies. For a few hundred years ago, only a few people were basically coming from Europe. Yeah. And now this developed into some insane nations. And this will be the same for Mars.
And thanks Pedro Munoz for the super chat. We love you too. Thank you,
Pedro Munoz. Thank you so much.
And thank you for the extremely generous donation, D. Denver.
Wow, D. Denver, you are so friendly. We don't know what to say. Thank you so much for this amazing donation. So, hint for huge disruptive tech. What is he saying?
Thorium liquid salt reactors.
Thorium liquid salt. I think we talked about it, right? The famous molten salt thorium reactors. We even covered it in one of our older videos, top 5 disruptive energy or energy generation technologies. And then we talked about solar, wind, fusion, and also molten salt reactors. Another one, but there was molten salt also in it. and thorium reactors basically hold the promise of clean nuclear energy without the downsides of nuclear energy. So you can produce large amounts of energy, and there's lots of thorium, so it's an abundant resource, and the half-life of the waste products is like so much lower than for the uranium types. Like there's like the half-life of the waste products is like in the range of decades maybe. So like you don't have the radioactive waste problem. So yeah, there's basically those are.
Yeah, there was a new startup, or was that something else we covered lately?
Yeah, you're right. Like there was a startup trying to use nuclear waste as a potential fuel source. Also based on some molten salt design. It was also some molten salt reactor design, and they would want to use radioactive waste products from standard nuclear reactors and use them to power next generation molten salt reactors, which would be quite awesome.
Yeah.
Right?
And thanks again, Larry Adam. Is there any viability to an electric universe? What does it mean?
Larry Adam, thank you so much for your donation. I think what he means, the electric universe, is kind of a theory which is very popular in, I like to say, circles which don't apply the scientific method, euphemistically formulated. So it's like there always you hear this plasma universe and plasma universe, electric universe theory, and so on. But the problem with these theories,
holographic universe, Fermi Paradox.
Holographic universe is something different again. But the electric and plasma universe is some kind of alternative theory which goes very much into the direction of conspiracy weirdness theories. And the problem is with that, I haven't seen any peer-reviewed scientific paper ever which comes forth with a valid model of the electric or plasma universe. You know? Like electric universe, plasma universe, we haven't seen any theory put forth with a mathematical model, peer-reviewed and reproducible by many scientific groups around the whole world, which would explain the universe with plasma or like electricity. The problem is those theories, they don't have a mathematical framework which makes sense. They just talk, they say, this could be explained by electric plasma forces. That sounds nice, right? But then say, okay, show me a theory, write it down, please. I want to see some formulas. Let's calculate a bit. And then like, you know, and then suddenly the theory is not so viable anymore. That's the problem with those theories. The scientific method has not been applied to them, and if it would be applied to them, then it would insanely, like it falls apart. It just falls apart. That's the problem with those theories. Let's not even talk about other more insane theories of that magnitude. You know, flat Earth and I don't know what else.
And thanks for the super chat again, Rich Chrono. I've heard a Venus slingshot can cut 3 months or more of the trip to Mars. Is this not accurate? It can, right?
You're right. Thank you first for the donation, Rich Chrono. And you are right. It could cut down travel time to Mars. We could make a swing by Venus. And basically, this was a paper that came out not long ago, if you remember.
Yeah, we talked about it, and the astronauts also talked about it. Yeah. Everyone was talking about it.
Exactly, yeah. So we remember it. But there was an argument why direct trips might be better long term. So, I mean, it would be nice to take Venus along like as a freebie. You know, like, oh, we're flying to Mars. Let's do a detour by Venus. But we are not sure about how often this constellation with Venus arises and how often you can do it. And also we are not so sure about the trip time, if it's really shorter. We haven't, the 3 months figure, we are not sure about it. If you could do a Venus, that sounds awfully, we don't think this is accurate. We think it's more like at least half a year, because it would be just insanely fast, in my opinion, to fly by Venus and to Mars in 3 months. This doesn't sound right to me. It sounds...
But the launch window would be more frequent, right?
Yes, it was the launch window. But what do you probably mean? The launch window is more frequent. So in the case of Mars, Earth directly to Mars in the Hohmann transfer orbit, it's called a Hohmann transfer orbit. It's every 26 months. But to Venus, via Venus, it might be every 14 months or something. But the trip time, in my opinion, is higher than 3 months. That doesn't sound right. More like 6, 7, 8 months. And I think we should really try to reach Mars directly and as fast as possible. 3 months, and not like if we fly by Venus, 7, 8 months trip, cosmic radiation bombardment for 7 or 8 months. Of course, we want to cut down travel time, right?
Yeah. We have another interesting question with regard to Starship, and Rishidata Maurya. You already said that we cannot pronounce your name. I'm sorry.
Rishidata Maurya? Exactly. What is Rishidata Maurya asking?
When SpaceX going to start astronaut training or designing new suits for Mars or Moon, because they need this if they are going to stay on Mars or Moon.
Good luck spelling my name, thanks. Yeah, Rishidata Maurya, I hope this is kind of accurate. Thanks for the question, and yes, you said it basically already, right? You said that...
they are really advanced with spacesuits because they designed the current spacesuits which the astronauts are using to fly to the ISS. Yes. Right? There was a really nice YouTube video even on SpaceX's channel. Yeah. So probably they will be designing new spacesuits for the Moon and Mars also. Yeah. Just an updated version of the ISS suits. But I'm not sure if they will train astronauts too. What do you think?
That is where collaboration with NASA might indeed come in handy. So that is a nice link to the previous question where will government agencies still play a role? We think yes, because they have a lot of know-how and knowledge and the facilities to train. For example, you need to train in huge pools, like water pools, like very deep water pools. Yeah. And NASA has some really nice facilities for that, for example. So that will be a nice collaboration between SpaceX and NASA.
Yeah, we think like going into space is like, as an astronaut, you have to be like an expert on everything. If something breaks or if some unexpected stuff happens, you have to react fast. That's why, I mean, this was this Virgin Galactic, right? Where the first private space flight to the ISS. I mean, for such tourist missions, you always need like a professional trained astronaut, at least as the captain, basically, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly.
You cannot have only tourists, or the ratio from trained astronauts and tourists should be right. Yeah. And we have a super chat from Joe Techmeyer. Hello, Joe. We were talking about you earlier.
Hi, Joe Techmeyer.
Yeah, we mentioned your channel at the beginning of the stream because we are now doing so many Tesla updates anymore. We said they should go check your channel for Giga Texas.
Yeah. So he asks, what technologies do you think SpaceX lacks that are critical to getting to Mars? What are your thoughts on how they can resolve these deficiencies? What do you think? What technologies is SpaceX lacking?
I mean, we did the famous Starship Flow Fix video series on our channel.
Yeah. The idea was basically we were always like kind of thinking, SpaceX, why isn't SpaceX talking so much about cosmic radiation and about the zero gravity problem? And then we thought about solutions like we certainly need some kind of rotation. No one was talking about it, like what the hell is going on? It's obvious to have some kind of artificial gravity on long Mars trips and protection against cosmic radiation, which are very high energy particles of like 10 to the 15 electron volts, like, or even higher. So you need some shielding, right?
Yeah, there's an interesting question from Argon. Why not create an EM field around the spacecraft to shield from solar radiation?
That is a very good point. Why not? Because an EM field requires what? Power. Yeah. Power. And power doesn't come free in space, you know? Certainly not on a relatively confined volume. So sure, maybe in the future where we have fusion reactors on board and even more advanced power sources, then this could become viable. Yes, you can just make a strong magnetic field, which would have to be very strong. Like we're talking really strong here, and then like you could deflect some high energy particles, you know, because they are charged and then they will be deflected around. But for the time being, it's much easier to just build a shield. Or what do you think? Just build a shield, some kind of shield into Starship.
Genetic engineering, as we said before.
Yes, exactly. So like you can genetically modify us to make us more resilient against space radiation. You can like shield Starship. There's this new fungus. There was this fungus which with anti-radiative properties, shielding properties. So you could like make the build the fungus into the hull of Starship, which would protect you from cosmic radiation. And then also like the artificial gravity problem. That's also a big problem where I think SpaceX certainly needs to put in a bit more work, because you cannot, without genetic engineering, so either you have genetic engineering, then you can do zero G, but without genetic engineering, 6 months voyage to Mars without centrifugal rotation, without artificial gravity, wouldn't be nice for the astronauts, right?
No.
They would arrive on Mars like totally damaged. They would like they would arrive on Mars and like,
that was why we also talked earlier that we said it's probably not so efficient to have lots of fitness training equipment on Starship, because you want to save the payload capacity to science equipment or other more important stuff.
Yeah.
So in order to save you some training to prevent from bone mass loss, it would be nice to just genetically inhibit the protein which inhibits muscle growth.
Yeah, so that would be an easy solution. And SpaceX is lacking quite a few things still, to come back to your question, Joe. And radiation, low gravity problems, they have to be addressed. And then on Mars, how exactly will they haven't given us any details of the future Mars space. We saw some fancy renderings and that's it. So there's still a lot of room for...
Yes, and Andreas Hrushka.
Andrew Hrushka and Andreas Hrushka, thank you so much for your generous donation.
He says, since NASA's lunar program may now be postponed, wouldn't SpaceX have to set up its own astronaut program so that Elon's goals can be met?
Very good point, right?
Yeah.
What do you think? Is it like, will SpaceX do their own astronaut program because NASA is so slow again now?
I doubt it, because an astronaut's training program could be very costly, and I do believe that Elon just wants to put all the funds they have into the development of Starship and Super Heavy on Raptor engine, of course, to optimize Starship so they can send, because it would also be nice if they can get to Starship 2.0 quicker, because we always said they can send 100 people per Starship to Mars, and we said it's way too optimistic. You cannot put 100 people into one Starship, the current size, of course. So the first iterations would be only 20 to 30 people per ship, and that's not enough for colonizing Mars, obviously, and that number NASA could certainly offer.
Yeah, I think also like now they are postponing probably the moon landing to 2028 under the new administration, very likely, I think. And this is a bit too late for Elon's taste, that is clear. The question is, they haven't said anything, there's no official word on that. There's like, no, Elon hasn't said anything about it, so we just can speculate. And maybe they will say, okay, let's do our own astronaut training facility. But for that, the first step is really to get Starship flying reliably. And we've seen how much stuff can go wrong. And first of all, like Starship should really fly reliably until the next step. Then they can think of like astronaut training program. How would we set it up? How much would it cost?
Yeah. And or they will just do something similar to the Dear Moon mission, so that you have a professional NASA astronaut as captain, and then you have some private or individuals or some scientists, or they could also like employ some ex-NASA astronauts. I mean, the NASA astronauts, they are all fans of Falcon 9. They all enjoy the Falcon 9 ride, the Crew Dragon. Could also be because there is like also the distinction between NASA and Boeing astronauts. I also didn't know that what exactly they do differently, but there are many possibilities, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're sure SpaceX will come up with a good solution for the astronaut training.
But now I think we are almost in 2 hours, so...
Oh, time is flying too
yeah,
fast.
Yeah.
Every time. Why?
So
much
maybe
fun.
1 or 2 questions more, but other than that, I would say we have to save the questions for the next stream. And we also don't want to occupy our awesome moderators too long for today. So first, we want to give a shout out to Framrick. And Warhawk Me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for helping out. And also our other moderator, Jay Keegan. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jay Keegan. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for helping us out today, for managing the chat.
Yeah.
So maybe still another super chat from Maker Meter. Is Blue Origin a player in Colony plans?
Maker Meter, thank you so much. You have already asked so many excellent questions today. Blue Origin.
They are a bit like the Chinese and the Russians. You don't know what they are doing.
Yeah, we are always.
But he's laughing because he always makes fun of Blue Origin. That's not friendly.
You're always like you're the moderating force.
I want to be more diplomatic.
Well, yeah, which is very good that you do this. But I have to say, don't want to be too brutal to Blue Origin, of course. And the problem with them is just their speed. They should like really be faster. It's not that their plans are bad or anything, or that they are doing not good things. It's just their speed is like a bit too slow. So they will come out with a new Glenn rocket when? In 2 years or what? And then you have basically a rocket that is less capable than the Falcon Heavy. And the Falcon Heavy exists already since a few years and has already flown. And we have the impression like Blue Origin has some good ideas, but they're just so slow, right? Compared to SpaceX. So will they be a big player if they continue with this snail's pace? Then no. Then
but do they have any other plans, like beyond building the new Glenn rocket? Of course, also the engines for NASA's Vulcan Centauri rocket. Do they have plans like to build Colony or other infrastructure?
Yeah, I mean they are part of the Blue Origin Moonlander, like the famous national team, which we like to call lobby team, for obvious reasons. And they are basically working on the Moonlander for the Artemis program. But let's see now how this develops under the new administration.
Yeah.
It might get dragged out, and let's see if they will manage to build a Moonlander at all now.
Yeah, but Framrick mentioned that Blue Origin vision is the O'Neill cylinders, but that's
true.
The far future.
That's true, but that is like a fancy, like Jeff Bezos says O'Neill cylinder, but that's a fancy thing. I can also say O'Neill cylinder. I will build an O'Neill cylinder in 100 years. I can say this, right? Okay, I will build an O'Neill cylinder, but the realism behind it, like how realistic is it? It's Blue Origin has not even launched an orbital flight yet. They are like the new Shepard is suborbital, so the new Glenn, which will come out in 2 years earliest, is the first orbital rocket, and then basically Starship might be already here, and then basically so the O'Neill cylinders. If Blue Origin builds an O'Neill cylinder in 100 years, that would be already fast. Sorry to say this, but in 100 years, if Blue Origin surprises us in the year 2120, I will say, wow, Blue Origin, respect, you surprised me with quite amazing speed.
Yeah, and I will say thank you to Jeff Sherwood. Thanks a lot for your super sticker. It's a nice sticker.
Jeff Sherwood, thank you so much for your insanely amazing friendly donation. We don't even know what to say. We feel so honored and flattered. It's like, thank you so much.
So maybe one last question, right?
Okay, maybe let's do one last question.
Okay,
Because
we
then-
are also mentioning Angry Astronaut again. So Angry Astronaut is our very good friend. He rescheduled his live stream, so it didn't took
Yes.
place before ours, and he said he will upload a video today. So be sure to check out his new video. We will
Absolutely.
also watch his video later on today.
Of course. We have been friends with Angry Astronaut since quite a lot of time now, and we always writing each other and keeping in touch, and we hope to work together with him in the future on some amazing topics again also.
Yeah.
So one last awesome question about maybe Fermi Paradox. I mean, I don't want to influence you, dear viewers, in any way. I would never do that. But maybe Fermi Paradox, maybe some last question about Fermi. What do you say? Fermi Paradox, anyone? Yeah, bad try, I would say. But
We are
no,
more interested in Starship.
you can ask us anything, of course, about spaceflight. No
Frederick
problem.
said Fermi. But when will Starship fly? The classic question.
When will Starship fly?
You mean the hub, the 15-kilometer hub? I mean, the SM5 in City already flight actually,
Yeah.
more or less.
Yeah, probably they mean. Do they mean the 15-kilometer hop? Then we say in a few weeks. We always like probably some point in December, realistically. And
But they are starting a new round of testing already next week, right? Today is
Yeah.
Sunday, so next week.
yeah, but if he means when will Starship actually fly, like regularly to the moon, Mars, and so on, if in 2023 Starship will make regular flights to low Earth orbit and deliver the first like Starlink satellites, we would be extremely happy. In 2023, then we can be already very happy. But we should not be sad if it's 2024, because this is such a new groundbreaking technology that this is like such a new, insane, radical level of new spaceflight technology that it just takes time. And you can see how much can go wrong every time in Boca Chica. So we shouldn't be sad every time it gets postponed, because it's still a million times better than what NASA would have done, because NASA would have shown us in the year 2100 fancy animations. Yeah, we will soon fly to the moon. This time we promise, right?
Yeah.
And then like, still nothing. Yeah, thanks. And therefore, we can be very happy that SpaceX exists and that we have Starship. And so if it's 2024 that Starship really flies to low Earth orbit, and if it's 2026 or 7 or even 2028 until the first Starship lands on the moon, we should not be sad.
That was a good answer to the last question, and I would say thanks a lot for tuning in today.
Time is over again, damn it.
And so we are probably, our current plan is to do a live stream per month, so we will do another one probably during Christmas time, if you like.
Maybe Christmas
And
with a Christmas hat and
Yeah.
so on, Christmas tree.
Oh. Then and don't forget to check out our homepage, link in the description. If you have any suggestions we could add to our website, please tell us. And and if you're new, please subscribe and turn on the bell, because then you will get notified when we do a live stream again.
Absolutely correct.
And thanks again for all our moderators. They are also tired now after 2 hours, so they
Thank
should
you
also
so much.
enjoy their evening.
Thank you so much to our moderators. Great work, amazing. Thank you.
And so
So
see
then,
you in tomorrow's video then.
see you in tomorrow's video. Quite some good topics again, probably.
Yeah. On to the future, right?
So then, on to the future. What? See you.